Hello, today I'm going to be making a video showing you how to deal with some early raised seedlings. So I'm going to be covering non-hardy plants such as cucumbers and tomatoes, and also hardy plants such as leeks and cabbage. I've made month by month guides on when I planted many of these seedlings, so if you'd like to check them out I will link them in the description box below. These here are Gardener's Delight tomatoes, one of my favourite varieties, lovely sweet tasting cherry tomato. Now tomatoes don't like going below about 10 degrees C, which is about 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This is particularly important if you are germinating them from seed. Now you might get away with some lower temperatures once the plant is a little bit more mature, so the size of this. But really you want to keep them around 10 degrees C, and of course at this time of year that's quite a tricky thing to achieve here in the UK. So what I did was I planted them up and then I germinated them inside on a south facing windowsill. They're a nice size here, so what I've done is brought them out here. Now what I don't want them to do is to go leggy, and that's when you get a long spindly stem, okay? The plants can be weak if that happens. They're more open to breaking, so you want to keep them nice and strong, and legginess is caused by low light levels. The plant is stretching to try and find light. Another reason for legginess can also be if they're in a too small a cell tray with too small a growing medium. The plant can't establish strong roots, and then what it does, it sends up more of a plant at the top for a response. So one way of dealing with if these were leggy, which in my opinion they're not yet, that one's starting to go that way, what you could do is take this out and repot it into a bigger pot. So maybe initially you could go into a pot this size, or even one this size, or work up from this to this. So that's one thing you can do to stop legginess. Now once the plants get a little bit bigger than that, so say if they're about that size and they're very leggy, what you can do is set it deep into a pot like these, and what the stem will do is actually root out, so you can set it right deep and that'll help to sturdy the plant up. But ideally you want to avoid the legginess in the first place. Now one way of avoiding the legginess is to grow them under grow lights that deliver the right amount of light so that the plant isn't stretching to get it. Now I don't use grow lights, I never have, but it's something I may look into in the future. Now whilst you're raising your plants on your windowsill, what you want to look out for is the plants leaning in the direction of the light. You want the stems to be as straight as possible, so you can see the direction these were facing the light because the plants are going that way. You can see that clearly. Now what you can do is actually turn the container around like that on the windowsill and do that routinely so that they stay nice and straight and plumb upright. Sometimes tomato seedlings can show purpleness to the leaves, a purple colour, and quite often this is due to a phosphorus deficiency. It can also be due to other reasons such as maybe certain viruses or infestations, but quite often it's a phosphorus deficiency. So what you can do for that is feed it with something like Epsom salts, or you can also use an organic tomato feed. You don't want to be feeding them too much with something high nitrogen, a high nitrogen feed, because this can actually make legginess worse, particularly at this time of year, by encouraging the plant to put out loads of leaves due to the nitrogen. You don't want to be overwatering because this can lead to damping off, which is a fungal condition which can lead to weakening and or death of the seedling. You don't want that. So you can see with these ones I've actually let the growing medium dry out quite significantly because I was planning on bringing them out here where the temperatures are lower than inside on the windowsill. So I'm going to be giving these a little bit of water with the spray gun. You could also consider watering from underneath with a tray there, and that could help to avoid the damping off. So don't overwater. Here are some Market More cucumbers. So I sowed these on the 6th of February, so you can see they're doing well. I've had 3 germinate out of 6, so 50%, not too bad a ratio. You can see starting to grow out here. Now these are not hardy, okay, like the tomatoes, so I'm going to be taking steps to protect them, but once again you can see they were leaning towards the light there. So these could do with a repot in order to allow the roots to get nice and strong. So you can use the same size pots as I showed you earlier for the tomatoes. I have some chilies here. So this is variety Basque. Now I sowed these either 28th of November last year or late December, something like that. But Sowed them a while ago. You can see they're looking very strong. Now I've noticed that chilies and peppers don't seem to suffer from the legginess, and a lot of this in my opinion is because they don't grow as fast as tomatoes, so they're looking very healthy indeed. So these chilies here, now as I stated, they don't seem to suffer so much from the legginess, so you could leave them on your windowsill inside for a bit longer. Now they like a temperature about 20 degrees C, 68 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's quite difficult to achieve at this time of year here in the UK, so you need to be very vigilant. They will not tolerate frost, okay, they're not frost hardy. Now I'm going to leave all of these non-hardy plants out here in the polytunnel, so it'll be a bit warmer in here than outside, but still very cold at night. So I'm going to be putting them in a container which will help to keep the heat in, so keep them warm, and I don't want them to grow away too fast, so that's the reason why I'm now bringing them out here. Now I've got lots of other seedlings on the way and I can always put more in, so I don't want these to perish, obviously, but I have got a backup in case it does happen. So this will be interesting for all of us to look at and just see how it goes. So I'll show you how I'm keeping them. Now I put them in this polystyrene container here. So this is quite an effective insulator. So what I can do, particularly at night, is to cover it up like that. So that way, that should protect them from cold temperatures. Now, be vigilant, okay, and if the temperature's going to get very cold, be prepared to take the whole thing inside, okay? Even if it does go below, 10 degrees C, which you can more or less be guaranteed it will, what you want to do, if you're particularly precious over them, is to take them inside, okay? But mine are going to stay here. Let's see what happens. And of course, don't leave the lid on for too long, because they do need light. Broad beans sown in the later part of last year, earlier part of this year. They're going to be planted out around early April at the allotment probably. I have some other broad beans here which are sowed around the 14th of February. They'll be perfectly fine out here. They're fully hardy and they will germinate in the temperatures out here. Komatsuna, Japanese green, an excellent thing to grow and fully hardy here in the UK and also drought tolerant. Now, I planted these around January time in this cell tray and I put them inside to get them to germinate, then brought them out here a couple of weeks after so they wouldn't go leggy. They're looking very healthy indeed. I've also noticed that slugs, snails and birds don't seem to like them too much, so that's a good thing. Don't take my word for that though. Make sure you protect them. If you want to make it less likely something else will not eat them. Curly kale, sown around January time, looking very healthy again. Germinated on a windowsill inside, then brought out here. When you plant these out, make sure you protect them because other things really do enjoy eating kale. Make sure you net them in the summer because of the cabbage white butterflies. Now with both of these, I'm not going to be potting them on into bigger pots. What I'm going to do is take out the entire one like this. So if I leave them a bit longer, what will happen is they'll become a nice firm sort of root clump and growing medium, if you will, and then I'll both plant these out, probably at the allotment, but maybe here in the garden, who knows. Oscar early pea. So I sowed these around the 6th of February and you can see they're looking very good indeed. Now what I did with these was planted them up out here and took them inside to germinate, brought them out 2 weeks later, something like that. I got these out here in really good time. You can see that these ones are not leggy, whereas these ones are. They're planted around the same sort of time and they're looking very strong indeed. So these will probably end up going down the allotment. I really like germinating peas in cell trays and then planting them out because mice quite often like to nip them out and eat them. So this way you're giving yourself a higher chance of getting a more reliable crop. This is another variety of pea called Champion of England and it's a tall climbing pea. I've sown these on the 18th of February as well and once again they're looking very healthy just like the Oscars. So got some early peas and some tall ones, so should get a nice crop of peas this year hopefully. Sown some other peas here on the 18th of February. These are variety Jessie. They're a dwarf pea and you eat the peas and the pods of these, so it's going to be quite interesting to see what they look like. Now the variety of seedlings here sown on the 31st of December last year. Feast spring onions, Lion 2 prize taker leeks, musselburr leeks, winter density lettuce, which is a lovely fully hardy and also slow to bolt lettuce, sweet in flavour as well there. all the year round lettuce, nice tasty lettuce, slow to bolt as well, and also purple top Milan turnips. Turnips are brilliant because not only can you eat the root, you can also eat the leaves. Now, it's generally advised not to transplant turnips because it can actually cause root disruption, which they don't like. But I've grown them in these cell trays. I'm going to plant them out, and honestly speaking, if I don't get a huge root, I'm not too bothered because I'll just eat the tops. So quite happy with how they've all worked out. Got some red beard there, probably sown around the same time. Some cabbage here. Can't exactly remember the time I sown these, but often them to flower of spring. Now, what I need to do with these is transplant them, or pot them up rather, into cell trays. These sorts of cell trays here or then would do, waiting for the plant out, probably around April time. Really got to protect them though when they get put out. Now, got my beetroot here, which I sowed on the 24th of January. Now, you can see I've had some damping off here, and I will take responsibility for that. What happened was I came back from work one day, I was tired, a bit absent-minded, and I overwatered them. Might have got away with it had we not been hit with that period of snow and very cold weather. So some damping off occurred and I lost a few, but there we are, that's one of those things. So this further reinforces the importance of not overwatering, but I should be able to cell transplant these, and some should be able to get through. So different varieties here, Bolt Hardy and Cylindra, but overall I'm still happy with these and how they are. Winter gem lettuce, so probably sowed this around late December or January time, can't exactly remember, but they're looking quite strong. A lovely, beautiful, sweet tasting lettuce, which I really like the look of, so you can see looking quite good. I sowed some little gem cos lettuce here on the 17th of February, so you can see these are starting to germinate lovely here, perfectly okay with the temperatures in the polytunnel at this time of year. And some more there. So basically you're getting the theme of this. Nearly everything that I've grown early on I germinated inside and then brought out here. Some exception with regards to the broad beans you saw from very early sowings. I believe they germinated out here, but certainly everything else was inside on a warm windowsill. And what I'm going to be doing is transplanting the whole thing generally, all the ones you've seen grown in cells. I'm going to just literally lift the whole growing medium with the plants in and transplant the whole thing into the ground. So I got some spinach here, and with this I germinated these inside, brought them out. You can see that some are starting to germinate here. And spinach is one of those vegetables that will tolerate a lower temperature to germinate. So if you plant spinach outside now in your polytunnel under cover or greenhouse, it should germinate without too much of a problem. I planted some beetroot variety Bolt Hardy. You can see this was on the 15th of February, and you can see that they're just starting to come up now. I think, yeah, you can see that one there, I think. Leeks, Lion 2 prize taker, sown on the 18th of February. No sign of these yet, but they will come. If one wants to quicken up things like this, so the beetroot and the leeks, what you can do is take it inside to get it to germinate and then bring them out, but I'm leaving these out here now. Okay, well, potatoes. So I've got a variety here called Swift, and what Swift is, the first early potato, otherwise known as a determinate potato. So I grew these last year, they did very well. Now I'm going to grow them this year, and I'm going to grow them in containers, 25-30 litre containers, as I did, if I remember correctly, with Swift last year, here in the polytunnel to give them a nice early start. So hopefully be harvesting these around June time. Now, I've actually chitted these. As you can see here, chitting is basically when you leave them in a frost-free place to let the shoots come up to give you an early start. Now, I've generally never bothered with chitting before. If it happened, it happened. If it didn't, it didn't. I just set them. But this year I've chitted them. Now, it's generally advised not to chit in the bag, to actually take them out the bag, put them in, say, an egg carton, something like that, and chit them on there. But as you can see, they've chitted just fine in this bag so far. Now, with regards to whether chitting is worth doing or not, now that's a very intriguing one. Now, certainly, you know, I want to be getting these potatoes early. It's lovely, isn't it? A nice taste of first early potatoes. You know, come home from work, have some nice first early potatoes. Isn't that wonderful, hey? So there we are. Now, with regards to main crop, the consensus is it's not necessarily, you know, as important because they're going to be in the ground for some time anyway. And also, back in the day, in 1999, I used to work on a potato farm, and hundreds upon hundreds of thousands probably, or at least tens of thousands of tons of potatoes were produced there. I remember working on main crop varieties such as Maris Bard. Now, I wasn't there earlier in the season when the potatoes were planted in the field, but I would imagine it's incredibly unlikely that the farmer chitted them. You know, they just went in the ground, and certainly didn't seem to affect his crop. And I remember small potatoes coming out of there, great big ones which could be used for baking. So, you know, chitting, it's a matter of opinion, but this year I'm chitting all of my potatoes, first, second, early, and also main crop. Well, I hope you enjoyed that, people. If you like my work, please feel free to like, share and subscribe, and enjoy Sunday, and I will see you in the next video.